Hello, and on this episode, Chloe gets the cold shoulder, Clark gets his chance with Lana, and the Kents have a date with Lex. This episode is cool. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hi, I'm Lou, and with me, as always, is the extremely talented and feverishly red Allan.
You forgot to mention I have a beard.
I'll do that on the next one.
Alright.
It's going to be hard trying to come up with a new way to introduce you each episode, but that's my goal. Pretty interesting episode. It's actually, to kind of go along with the last one we did, we see some stuff that really wouldn't fly on TV today for characters that are supposed to be 15 years old. But basically, let's get into the plot. We see Clark and Chloe show up to a high school party on a lake when they're, again, 15 years old, and everyone is drinking, and Chloe kind of throws some hints of attraction at Clark once again. He completely is oblivious to it all. We see Whitney throwing a football with the greatest football cliche character I can think of, which is Sean, who's going to be our villain of the week or media freak of the week.
He actually looks like the dime store version of Nick Zano from Legends.
Oh, yeah. He is every cliche you can think of from any sort of teen movie. He literally talks about how he gives Chloe his number, and then Whitney's like, "Are you into her?" And he's just like, "Another notch on the belt, bro." It is funny, though. He's the total broiest bro of all time. And you're not sad when he goes to pick up a ball and falls into the lake and dies and no one cares. I think no one at all gives any attention. I think one character is like, "Oh, where'd Sean go?" And it's like, "No, he must have went somewhere," and no one notices they died.
Yeah, they just don't care about their people.
Yeah. You would think with all the stuff that happened to the football team earlier this year that they would care about, their friends, but nope, he's just gone and forgotten. Alright, so basically that's our first couple minutes. Somehow, I did want to mention that he only walks out 5 yards off the shore and plunges 50 feet in the lake. And that is not how lakes work. There's, a gradual climb. Sometimes there's drop-offs, but they're not going to be 5 yards outside of shore. Alright, but basically he climbs out, he punches through the ice, he climbs out, he's doing his best Mr. Freeze, and then he goes by a fire, and he inhales the heat and walks away, and then his skin kind of turns back to normal. I guess I can get back to it later on, but this is one of the things that really bothered me in this episode, but I'll get back to it at the end of Vex. The next morning at school, he tries to pick up Chloe, but she plays a little hard to get, and he literally takes no time to be like, "Oh," and literally runs to another girl in school. And then basically we get our jumping through a little bit of filler. We see this girl, I don't even remember her name. She's taking a shower, so we get a 15-year-old shower scene where we get Sean coming in Psycho style, attacking her through the shower curtain, which she falls down, again, naked, only the shower curtain covering her, and he sub-zeros her and then pushes her over and she shatters into a million pieces.
Yeah, and the character, Sean's last name, Calvin, it's an inside, it's a bit of a joke about not joke, but more trivia about the 3 common units of temperature: Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin.
Yeah, Kelvin's the more scientific one that they use. Alright, so basically after this, Sean, every time he absorbs heat, he kind of returns to normal. Basically, Sean then decides, the only thing that's going to help him is to go after body heat. So his next victim, as he goes through his little black book and every girl hangs up on him, is to go after Chloe. Clark hears about him killing the other girl and leaves what he is doing. This kind of brings us to our couple of B-plots that we have going on in this episode. So the first one starts at the beginning where we see Chloe trying to make Clark jealous. Pete actually kind of tries to push the two of them together, and we see Chloe to continue to be annoyed about Clark's infatuation with Lana.
Speaking of the beginning of the episode, there's a line where when Clark is like, I'm not cold, everything's fine. Chloe says, "What, are you from an ice planet?" "Freezing." It's a nod to Krypton. Yeah, I think the way they made the 70s movie kind of look with the crystals makes it kind of like an ice planet. Yeah.
Because most textbook stuff just has it kind of be, I don't even know how to describe it, just a planet that's really techie. But the other part of this, the next part of one of our little B-plots is that you see Lex sees Lana. He starts talking crap to Lana about Whitney because Whitney forgot that he was supposed to go on a date with Lana. He then actually gives Clark tickets to go see Radiohead, and Clark actually goes and asks Lana out, and Lex gave him his limo to use for the night. But Clark also implies that it's just as friends. And then this leads kind of a good, the third B-plot is that we see the Kent's money issues again. The farm is in disarray. Lex actually comes randomly and talks with Martha and explains to Martha that he knows what's going on, that they can take another loan out on the farm, or that he can try to help them out. Martha basically takes this to John, and John is, still being John towards Lex. They decide to go and actually meet him and see what he has to offer.
Well, at first, he says he invites them to the mansion for a dinner he's having with a bunch of the other farmers, and mentions that Smallville used to be one of the big contributors, and I think Ma Kent says that it still is. Lex says if it's still contributing, why is the town called Why name the town Smallville?
Yeah, exactly. But we do get to the castle in a little bit, our main plot. So on the radio inside the limo, Clark hears that the girl that went on a date with Sean was killed, and he had seen that Chloe was going to go meet Sean at the high school. So he actually leaves Lana high and dry on their date. Sean attacks Chloe in the school pool. She gets pushed in, and then the ice slowly starts to creep up on her as she swims across the pool, and then as she's climbing out, it freezes with her leg in it. Clark shows up, punches away the ice, because he does, and pulls her out, and when they look up, Sean is gone. Pete and Whitney run into Lana at the coffee shop. Whitney is kind of really weirded out of why she's there and all dressed up. As this is going on, and then she tells Whitney to take her home and gives Pete the limo. As they're going home, at the same time, Sean goes to, I guess, the only electric power thing in the entire town and absorbs the heat from electricity. So I don't think that's how that works either. And then basically the entire town has a blackout. Whitney and Lana, I believe, almost hit Sean. He crashes his truck. This is like the third time Whitney's had a broken truck at this point.
Yeah, does he have really good insurance or something? Doesn't make sense.
The repairs happen like really fast. We're still early in the year. I don't think we've had a Halloween episode left yet, so it's coldish out. It's cold enough in Kansas where the lake was frozen, but unless they didn't do a Halloween episode for this season yet, but like, what time of the year is it? Like mid-October? So I'm like,
actually, I think it has to be sometime like.
Oh, the broadcast date was November 13th.
Yeah, because the show debuted in October.
Okay, so say it is mid-November. It's still only been since the first week of school, like 4 months, and his truck has been destroyed 3 times. But this car crash basically gets Lana and Whitney, because Sean is now gone, and they walk towards the lights, which is Lex's house, because it's the only place still with electricity, because they have a backup generator. So, like you were saying before, inside we have Lex and the Kents talking, and Lex actually reveals that looking up Jonathan's father took subsidies that Jonathan never knew about to help him with the farm, and just never told his family, and that he chose to do what was best for his family over his pride. You see Lana and Whitney get brought in. They're really confused about what's going on. They sit by a fire, and then the generator goes down as well inside the Luthor castle.
Well, you're forgetting that Clark gets chilled, so to speak.
Oh, I was going to get there, because basically, Clark super speeds over and finds Whitney's truck crashed, and that's when Sean jumps out and absorbs his heat. And we see Clark get, frostbitey. I don't know how to describe it.
He looks a bit like Loki in the first Thor movie, when he discovers that he's a frost giant. He's part frost giant. He
gets, a little blue. He gets, little ice crystals on his face and hair, eyelashes and stuff. It's not a terrible effect, but, yeah. Basically, so when the generator goes down, Lex basically goes to say something to we should go do this, and Martha and John are like, all right, I'm going to go check this, I'm going to go check that. Martha goes to check the generator. She goes outside, it's completely frozen over, and Sean comes to attack her, not realizing it's Clark's mom. He's super creepy, he has been all episode hitting on her in a weird way, as he's trying to kill her. And he attacks, Clark comes up, attacks Sean, they get into a fight. Sean does steal more of Clark's heat and makes a comment about, how much warmth there is in Clark or something like that.
Yeah, he says that he mentions that he's feeling different, that Clark is different compared to the other people whose heat he's stolen. And he also makes a really just terrible comment about Martha being hot, really cheesy.
Yeah, this is this post-American Pie or right around the same time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like this was his character was a very American Pie character.
Wait, I think American Pie 1 was 1999?
Yes, so this is after that. So it kind of makes a little bit of sense of why he's behaving this way. To me, in the way he's written, is that he's written to be a kind of one of those type of characters where there's a little more lewdness. And again, he's probably the same age as Whitney, and Whitney's like a year older than the rest of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a sophomore, so he's like 16, going on 17. It's just like, this episode has a lot of, not even a lot, like massive sexual overtones. Like, it doesn't even try to hide the fact that everything is all about sex in this episode. And based on like the list that Sean goes through, he's been having one night kind of flings with like a ton of women, or a ton of other girls. Which again is a very weird thing in a show that is about early high school kids. But we're basically coming up to the end of this main plot, which is Clark uses his super finishing move from every other episode, which is he upkicks Sean, and he goes flying right into the lake, and once again freezes in it, and that's basically the end of him as we see it.
Just flat out kills the guy.
Yeah, I believe he's mentioned in, again, like either the comics or in the Chloe Chronicles. Like Bug and, trying to think, one of the other characters gets like is in that again. But yeah, he upkicks him, basically killing him. And again, it's not necessarily that Clark uses his own uses the bad guy's own powers against him, because he just sees a lake, it's like, oh, like the swimming pool, he'll freeze in there, and he's basically trapped under there. And he's very like Jack in Titanic style, like with his arms up. We see Clark, and basically the end of the episode is Clark and Chloe lamenting their terrible dates, while Pete basically had a great date because he got the limo and has a second date now with his girl, who we never hear from again. Clark tries to ask out Lana again, who turns him down, and he gets friend-zoned super hard. And her response to like why she chooses Whitney over him is that Whitney is there when she needs him. Except I think in the last episode, wasn't it Clark that saved her from Crazy Pants?
Yeah.
Alright. Oh, I guess the last kind of B-plot is the Kents decide to not go with Lex, and they choose to get another bank loan out on the house, which I believe ends up coming back later on, either this season or next. But that's basically this whole episode. It was a really simple episode. It was just a lot of crazy sexual overtones, really kind of weird special effects that we see a lot in today's shows, like between the CW and a ton of other shows. Like we see like the Cole powers a lot. But we can go through, I guess, a breakdown of this episode. Did you have any overall thoughts?
It could have been better.
I think that's a very understatement. To me, it was interesting to see. So this episode gave us our first high school student killed, and we get the little kind of plaque thing at the end where Chloe's like looking at it. But are they going to make one of those for every kid that dies in this show? Because I feel like that would be a lot. Like a lot of people end up getting, like high school students end up getting killed as we go through the seasons.
That memorial was mainly for Chloe to realize that could have been her.
Yeah, because the whole thing is, I guess she's both lamenting that no one's interested in her, but specifically it seems like to me that it was a way to kind of try to put the jealousy in Clark, which he sort of gets, because he's like, oh, that guy's a dog. I think he says dog like 5 times in this episode about Sean. But it's a lot of trying to build the tension between the two of them, and this, again, I think we said in the first episode, like this love pentagram that is happening between Chloe, Pete, Lana, and Whitney. And actually, I don't know if it's in the first season, but Lex as well as we go on. The other thing I thought was, like, again, all the sex stuff. There was actually drinking in the beginning of the episode as well, with all characters that are well under 18 years old.
Yeah, but that stuff does happen, so.
Yeah, I know it happens. It's interesting to see in the episode. So there's a bunch of cars there, and it seems like everybody drove there. And it's specifically mentioned by Chloe that there's like, oh, wherever there's free booze and a chance to have premarital sex.
No, it's wherever there's free booze and a chance to hook up.
Yeah, so then the implication is that they all drink and party, hook up, and then drive home. Like, they didn't even write a way for them to get home without driving. Because there's a lot of cars in that scene, because they're all, like, parked around the fire. And I just think that it would be, that they would show this in an episode of a show today, but probably make the characters slightly older, like 15, 16's a little young, I think, for TV right now for this. But they would do this just like they kind of work it differently. I don't know. That was just my thought. I was just very surprised of how overt they were with the sex, specifically in this episode. Did you have a favorite scene or sequence in this episode?
Probably, if I had to choose just one. Clark, punching through the ice And then when Sean tries to get to him instead of Chloe, that sucker punch that knocks him like 30 feet.
Oh, you're talking about the pool scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that whole sequence was done well because the effects were actually not terrible. And there was kind of a decent idea of like imminent doom for Chloe. You know Clark is going to get there, but the fact that she actually got caught in the ice at all was interesting. And I guess it also gave us like I feel like this is like the first time in the show we've gotten like a kind of moral. Because again, Chloe's looking at the what'd you call it?
Memorial.
The memorial later on where she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been trying to hook up with some douche just to hook up. And like that could have easily been me. But it does go into my worst scene of this episode, which I think is that shower scene, because there's so many bad lines, and it's so weird.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it goes to one of the things that annoyed me in this episode the most, because it happened there and it happened earlier on, where the flames turned into icicles. That's not how fire works. Like, fire isn't I know this is going to be like super nerdy, but fire is like a plasma. It doesn't have any matter to freeze. Like it would just go out. And it happened to the campfire earlier as well. And I don't know why, but it just like bugged the crap out of me in this episode. Because I get that they were trying to go for a cool effect, but it just makes no sense. I don't know if that bugged you as much as it bugged me.
No, I just decided not to read too much into it.
Yeah, when I saw it the first time, I was like, why? And then they did it again. I was like, no, you're calling back to this dumb thing. It just bugged the crap out of me. But we do, I guess, in this episode, Sean is a really, really crappy version of a character that we get in the comics and that we see basically every week currently, which is he's a kind of gender-reverse Killer Frost, except with all the brains, but that's his power set, basically.
Well, they actually got to use this character on Smallville later down the line. He kind of reminded me of Icicle Jr.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that is like an F-list villain.
Yeah.
I only remember him from Young Justice.
And Icicle was mainly was the bad guy in the JSI episode.
Of Smallville, you mean?
Yeah, Absolute Justice.
Okay, yeah. But like he's...
Mainly due to the fact that... I'm guessing that mainly due to the fact that his whole body is like below normal body temperature. If he could create literal icicles out of his fists, then he'd really be bad. It would be worse.
Yeah, I guess those characters all tend to have kind of similar power sets. It's that heat vampire thing.
Yeah.
Which I think they did a good job, and I think the look, when he turned blue, like, the look of him turning back and forth from, like, blue to, like, normal skin tone wasn't terrible for a show from this long ago. But the only special effect that really bothered me was the, like I said, the flame thing. Just because, why? But comparing him, I guess, to especially Killer Frost that we see every week with her powers, I kind of like his look somewhat better. Because for Killer Frost, I love Danielle Humbacher, but they just kind of make her slightly pale and throw on a really bad wig and some contacts. I think that they could have done a lot more with her look. Maybe they will in the future.
Well, if you remember from Flash season 1 when Barry was running into the Speed Force to go back in time, that first initial shot of Killer Frost was way different than what we have what we've seen this season.
I'm gonna have to look at that because I don't remember that.
It's much shorter hair. She doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, because to me, especially because I'm reading, I think it's JLA right now. Or no, yeah, I think it's JLA.
Yeah, JLA is the one with Killer Frost.
Yeah, and again, they dropped the killer part because they made her more like the television show version. But I do like that character with shorter hair, and I think that they could do a little bit more with Frost's look on Flash to make her look more icy or affected. Like, she just her hair turns white, and then she gets, like, her eyes turn blue, which is fine, but her skin tone slightly gets more pale. I think they could have done a little bit more, making, like, I think the wig is the part that bothers me the most. Like, if they would have made it, like, more icy, I don't know. I honestly did not mind Sean's look in this episode, where his skin turned blue. It was very, like, for a TV show, not bad, comparing, like, I guess a Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin. Like, it wasn't as ridiculous as that, because it was done, I guess, mostly with, like, kind of, post stuff. Like, they didn't paint in blue or anything. It was all done on a 2001 computer.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, because it's not like they painted in blue, because there's no way they could do some of those effects with if they actually, like, painted color. I think maybe the initial time when he gets out of the lake, it's, like, a thing on him. But anytime he's switching from, like, being blue to being flesh-toned, it's definitely, like, a computer-generated thing. But they just kind of change, I guess, some sort of filter. Alright, so who is your best performer of the week?
Clark.
Oh, interesting. What is your reasoning behind that?
Mainly due to the fact that he was, in the previous episodes, he was defending, he was mainly saving, like, the threat level wasn't that really that much. This time the threat was, or the villain of the week was, there's a line that the villain says where he says, like, I'm gonna go after your mother, your father, then Lana.
Well, yeah, with this character, basically, there would be no end.
Yeah, so it's a small step towards becoming Superman.
Now that I think, yeah, that was it was a very good episode for Clark, kind of growing and dealing with a threat. And again, this is actually the first episode where Lana's not the victim. It's actually Chloe.
Well, no, not just Chloe. Like I said, everyone.
Yeah, Chloe and his mom. But specifically, like, he even leaves. It also builds on his character, because he leaves his date with Lana that he's been wanting for forever to go save his best friend or second best friend.
Yeah.
And it does build to, like, his character, that he puts himself last, which is what Superman should do. For me, the best performer of the week was Lex. I just loved everything he did in this episode, because even when he's not trying to be slimy, he's trying to help the Kents, but similar to Jonathan, there's always motivations around Lex, especially after the last episode. You know that he has a motivation to want to be close to the Kents, and this is like another way for him to get closer to them. And him actually digging up this stuff on Jonathan's father was interesting, and to show again, like, he has resources that nobody else has in this world.
Yeah, there's a lot of money that comes with the Luthor name.
Mm-hmm. Alright, now I'm going to guess that we are the same on this, but who is your worst performer of the week?
Oh, knock off Nick Zano.
Is that Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, like, I get what they were going for, but they did not need to make him this ridiculous. Like, he would have been fine being just, like, another jock on the team. Like, he didn't need to be, like, Stifler with ice ray powers. Like, he basically was, like, a step away from... They, like, really skirted around with that shower scene, like, kind of sexual assault, and just went right to the murder. But that was very kind of rapey. Alright. You already covered the 2 Easter eggs I had. I don't know if you had any.
Yeah, there's, let me find it. When Chloe and Clark are discussing the quote-unquote date with Lana, she actually says, just as friends. Instead of just as friends. And after Lex goads Clark into asking out Lana's reading a book, and the book is Dr. Zhivago. And one of the themes of the novel is loneliness, which is reflecting the mood Lana's in. And lastly, the original title of this episode was Freeze, which would have made a lot more sense.
I feel like they wouldn't have gone with that because that would have implied kind of a Mr. Freeze. And I get why cool, and it's like a double entendre because I guess they're saying like Sean's like a cool guy. But I feel like it was more on the end of saying Freeze would imply more of like a Mr. Freeze thing, and especially this early on. None of Clark's other villains really show up in any manner.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm just going to...
Oh, the writer of his episode?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Green.
Oh, cool.
Who I mentioned before, he wrote Supergirl, the New 52 run. He worked on Green Lantern, the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. He also wrote, I think, the 2 episodes from now, with Amy Adams.
Wait, Amy Adams is in a couple episodes?
No, she's the villain of the week she's the villain of the episode.
Okay, because I know I think a couple of them, it's the girl from Psych. I can't remember her name. Unless I'm thinking that that's Amy Adams for some reason.
No, that actress is also on this show, but I think it's later on. Like later on in the season.
Okay. On the next episode, Clark is wrapped with haunting visions when he meets an old woman, Cassandra Carpenter, who can see the future. Lex schemes to use Cassandra's gift to glimpse his own destiny and learn more about Clark's secret. Alright, that's like the opposite of the one I read last time, which that one gives like nothing, but that's the one on Hulu, which I think is probably better than the other one I had, which gave away the entire episode.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It just totally just gives up everything.
Yeah, I'd rather do the one that's like that one.
Okay, hopefully by the time this is out, the latest After Dark we did on Phantom Zone will be out. Because, man, or to quote Arlen, there are many that's so Allan moves or lines that I said.
Oh, is this the Savage Dragon?
No, just Arlen repeatedly saying, "Yeah, that's a very Allan thing to do."
Okay.
It'll probably be out. Hopefully, it'll be out by the time this is out. I was on Wicked Pixelated, talking to them about God of War, Black Ops 4, and lastly, check out the Facebook group, and don't follow Hunter because he's paranoid.
Alright, do you have anything else, or?
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. The Allan Muir on Twitter, Comics Boy on Instagram.
Alright, so just like Allan, I was on this past week's, or I guess this will be, I was on one of the more recent episodes of After Dark, where we got deep into Savage Dragon and his savageness in the bedroom. We should be having our Deadpool review soon. I know I just saw it today.
Oh, I saw it last night and it was great. It was everything.
Yes.
Everything. I lost it at a certain Easter egg cameo by a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, I was really surprised by that. But I did love some of the one-liners, like, man, you're way too dark. You belong in the DC universe.
Yeah, and the Wolverine quote. Oh,
yeah. There's a lot of shots at other movies in this. But that was really good. We'll talk about, you can check that out on the, I guess that'd be like a movie special.
Yeah.
I was on the season finale episode we did for Arrow of the CW shows. I will probably be on the Flash one that we'll be recording soon. And then whenever we have to deal with Supergirl, I'll probably be on that because fuck my life and that show. Actually, at this point, I sort of like parts of Supergirl better than I like Flash. But that just talks about how bad Flash has been this season. And then don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Phantom Zone to keep getting episodes of this show and check out the other episodes. I'm Lou A. Gonzalez on Twitter and Instagram. You'll see me posting, especially on Twitter, the fancy beers I am drinking. And then I'm in the Phantom Zone group as well. And I just posted something today about Marvel's ingenious plan to do another Spider bullshit universe thing because that's new and
yeah, Spider
creative. Yeah. I feel like they have a wall and it is like one side is Spider, Venom, Hulk, Wolverine, and like Hydra, and then the other wall is like random catchphrases that would sound good for crossovers, and they just throw balls at them, like sticky balls, and see where they land, and then that's their new crossover event.
Or the way the Family Guy writers were depicted on South Park.
Oh, yeah. About manatees.
Yeah.
Alright. Which is sad, because I am actually a fan. You've actually got me into my first Marvel book that I have read in over a decade.
Yeah, Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, I'm really digging it. Maybe it's part because she's in Jersey. I don't know. The art, I get that why the art makes sense for the comic. As I've been reading, I'm digging the art more and more. At first, I wasn't really a big fan, but I'm starting to dig the art, but the story is great. Alright, so I think that does it for this episode. We've talked about stuff other than this episode almost as much as we talked about this episode. I'm Lou Gonzalez. Catch us on the next episode.
I'm Allan Muir, and this podcast is Truth, Justice, and the American Way.